What's up everybody, how's it going? It's Berk, aka Dansweight here, and welcome back to this Final Fantasy XII attack-only adventure. In the last session, I really tried to make an effort to speed things up, and we got through plenty of things, and the last thing that we did was to defeat Vossler on the airship, and we are continuing with more in this episode. So there's a lot to get through. I'm going to get straight to it. Hope you guys are continuing to enjoy the series, and if you are, please remember to drop that like before we even get started. That would really be helpful. Let's get into it and return to Rabanastre, where I will be getting into a few hunts before moving forward with the story. Okay, my friends, after a lot of story, we are back in Rabanastre, and the plan here was basically, once again, I had another one of these like breaks in the story where I had a chance to do a few hunts. Get a little bit stronger, because one thing that we did notice in the last session was that increasingly my level is starting to drop further and further behind the level of the bosses. Now obviously I don't think it's supposed to be a one-to-one, because you literally have a party of 6 characters. I think it's part of the design for the boss to be higher level than you, but I think after a certain point, obviously it gets increasingly dangerous if you fall really far behind. And so the hunts give me a way to maintain my level, to earn a bit more money, because money actually hasn't been all that plentiful so far in this playthrough. I've had enough, but especially because you have so many party members, I haven't had the opportunity to basically, for example, every time I get to a new shop, buy all of the newest armors, for example, for everybody, and always have the best weapons and always have a massive surplus of items or anything like that. So hunts give me a way to do that a little bit more naturally instead of just purely grinding for things. And of course the hunts will bring with them some rewards as well. And so we find ourselves back once again in the Henne Mines. Now, at this stage, we are increasingly over-leveled for this area, but we still have the problem of this area generally being one in which, because it is quite a long, deep dungeon, the chip damage will still continue to accumulate, and I'm not generally that interested in fighting the things here other than the hunts, so mostly I will still be kind of running through and not spending too much time here. So generally the plan here is to get back to the Nidhogg, which annoyingly was a bit too difficult to defeat last time because of that sort of the last like 10%, 20%, that classic like the last stand mechanics that this game has. It was just a little bit too much for me last time, but this time obviously I'm much stronger and we should have a better time against the Nidhogg. So I'm going to move straight there here. Alright, let's see how this one goes. I've got Balthea, Ash and Penelo this time apparently to start with. And I'm just healing up before we get going. You can see like the potion laws were more important than I thought. And in general, at least having like 1 or 2 characters that will eventually get Potion Law 3 is pretty nice. The more efficiency we can get out of those potions, the better. So obviously this time I was feeling a little more confident, so I didn't clear out the extra enemies that are around. So we'll see. I mean, this isn't exactly my heaviest like damage dealing kind of group, but I wanted to see if they could do most of the work, and then I can bring in some of my heavy hitters, like of course Barsh for the finale. So already things are looking pretty comfortable, but this part of the fight, of almost any hunt or boss fight, is never really indicative of what's going to happen for the rest of it. So now in comes a couple more of the heavier hitters. Varn, I'm still using the weapon that he has, which can inflict sap if anything is vulnerable. That's just a really nice tool if you have it. Well, I didn't apparently, but now I'm swapping to it, as I should have. I think I noticed that his damage was a bit lower than it should be. The chopper is just a really nice weapon for this particular challenge early on. Obviously it will get increasingly underpowered with time, but for now at least, it's definitely a really nice weapon. And I'll continue to utilize it, if only just for afflicting sap, honestly. Okay, so here comes like the last stand, but already I'm in a very good place here. And we're going to do a lot more damage than we did last time. You can see better defense as well, more HP, and Nidhogg has been defeated. So nothing too difficult there. I'm not going to dwell too much on that particular fight. We're going to move it straight along here because we still have some more work to do before leaving the Henne Mines. Now, this hunt, the Rocktoise, is a little bit more spicy. It's a level 16 and 17,548 HP, apparently. So definitely one that I was worried about, mostly because of the enemy type. I'm always worried when I face something that's obviously that style, where I'm thinking my physical attacks might be really problematic and bad. But we'll just see how this one goes. I was generally quite powerful at this stage, so I did fancy my chances. Now, in terms of statuses, it isn't immune to slow and to silence if you're able to afflict it. So there's a couple of things there that I could definitely use to my advantage. So, but I am going in with a more aggressive team this time. We'll keep someone like Fran further away here just to protect her. But she seems to be doing good damage. I thought especially the arrows we'd basically do like no damage here. But Fran's doing a nice job. She did get blinded, and as soon as I saw that happen, I didn't realize that that was going to be an issue. So I made sure I switched to Argyle armlets here, you can see. So being able to make these type of immediate adjustments is really nice. And now obviously I need to switch Fran out, because while she's blind, she's not very useful. But Rocktoise already took her out, so this is kind of a penalty for not being sufficiently prepared here. But I do have enough Argyle armlets to cover everybody, of course. I mean, if you're doing an attack-only challenge, it's kind of smart to make sure that you have that for everybody. It does hit hard, though. You saw Varn took a huge amount of damage there, and he's already been taken out. So I felt like we were doing good damage, but we were taking some pretty heavy hits here. So it's gonna be close, and things like Sonic Turn can affect multiple characters as well. And my second heaviest hitter is not going to last too much longer. And a Skull Defender has also entered the mix. So this is a little bit annoying now. And Barsh is going to go at any second now. He's getting some more blocks in, which has been quite fortunate. You can see them there. He's blocked at least like 3 or 4, but he's finally dead. And it is doing like 200 every time it spins. So this is kind of dangerous now. 227, and the move before it did about 500. So now we start playing the sort of spacing game, where Balthier is going to do his best to sort of keep his distance. It is a very slow enemy, we can literally outrun it, and we'll see if it's possible to basically drain its HP, just chip away at it while maintaining distance. Because you can see he's kind of just slowly trying to get to Balthier, and it seems to me like the move doesn't trigger until it gets to a close enough position. And so this is something I realized later on in the fight, once basically almost everybody was dead. But this is actually a really useful way to deal with this guy if you're struggling, because you can see it basically hasn't used a move. Now, of course, the next skull appearing was really annoying, and Pinello is now dead, and we find ourselves in the familiar position of Balthier being the last one standing, and seeing if he can finish off a boss by himself. So, very low HP, but we know that these are some of the most dangerous times. And that final tiny bit of the health bar just seems to always take forever to take out. So can he survive? And well, we're still being attacked by the skull at the same time. And you can see like his gambit made him switch to the skull as well, which was obviously not ideal. I should have changed that. But there we go. Balthier does what Balthier often does in this challenge, and is the last one standing, and we defeat the Rocktoise. So you saw at the end there, the ability to basically just run circles around him was very, very useful. So I think if I was doing this again, I would have just had like 3 of my long-range characters and basically just kind of try to run laps around and try to space out the fight as much as possible and just keep Rocktoise chasing us down instead of basically going at it like I did in the attempt that you saw. But we still got it done, and Rocktoise is another one that's in the books. And with that, I was basically done with the Henne Mines. I just had to make sure that I was escaping without getting KO'd with Balthier. But as you can see, it's not too bad. He's got enough HP to take a few more hits. And the next time I have some breathing room, I can just heal up a little bit as well. So in general, the first couple of hunts were successful. And I'm not showing like all of the license board work to kind of save a bit of time here. But you can see that Balthier in general has more HP than last time. He's hit like a nice HP portion, pretty much the only big HP portion of his license board. So over the coming hours, his HP is going to increase pretty rapidly, and he'll become one of the highest HP characters that we have on the team. It won't last like throughout the playthrough, because he's got a bit of an early growth spurt in that regard, but it's definitely going to be nice and useful to boost up that HP early on in the game. This little mini Rocktoise is absolutely adorable. Of course, I went back to Pilica to get the reward for this one, and you do pick up 1,200 gil, 2 high potions, and a survival vest, which is very nice. So let's move it along and continue our little hunt excursion. So next up, we find ourselves at the Giza Plains. As you've seen, like, my levels haven't exactly gone up very much. We are almost all at level 14 at this stage, and I have been spending some of my license points as I get them. Obviously, one nice thing here is that while we're on our way to whatever the next hunt is, we can obviously take out a lot of these random encounters along the way and pick up some more LP points as we go. So my next task here was to try and take on the Crocodile. Now, this one was truly a jump up in difficulty. This one is a level 24, and it has 19,449 HP. Now, that's, in terms of the raw numbers, that's not too bad, but it has some moves that are truly problematic. So I'm going to skip ahead to the fight. You can see along here, even though these guys, for example, these hyenas are like level 19, stuff isn't too problematic here, and generally healing is not too far away. There's like save crystals. We've got healing items, so it's pretty easy to generally make our way to the Crocodile. So we don't need to show that process, but I will show you an attempt against it. Okay, here we go. Crocodile launching. Comes in straight away with Bravery and Shell, by the way. But we thought, hey, this is an attack-only playthrough. Should be fine. But it does Angel Song, and it gives him a regen effect, which is always a bit annoying, considering it already has 20,000 HP. Now, it hit Fran for 330 damage, which is a lot. And so immediately I brought in Barsh thinking, okay, like, this is serious. We need to get the heavy hitters out there and see what we can do. I didn't look up this enemy, like in terms of what are all of its moves and that kind of thing. I was on a little bit of a streak in terms of hunts, and so I thought I'd probably be able to overpower it regardless. But as you're seeing, even though Varn has over 1,000 HP right now, it's draining pretty damn fast. So we're going to need a little bit of fortune here. A few more blocks need to come in. We need to get a few more chains, some of that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, Varn is already dead. Now, the Crocodile is immune to sap, which is of course frustrating because it's one nice way to bring down HP for high HP foes. And things are going to get problematic later on, as they always do with these types of enemies. So for now at least, yes, it's doing big damage, but I think we still have enough firepower to kind of see it through. Especially if we get a little bit more, I think, RNG luck in terms of our chains and our blocking and that kind of thing. So even though Varn died pretty quick, we're starting to make a bit more headway with the fight now. I'm deliberately, obviously, keeping Fran at a distance so that she's not taking any hits. And we're definitely making progress now. But very soon the fight's going to start to get out of control because growing threat happens and Crocodile's level just magically doubles. Still has regen, and now obviously hits even harder and is starting to just spam its moves a lot more quickly now. So Barsh is dead, and this is the stage of the fight where already things are starting to look very dangerous. Can we see it through to the end? This guy has regen, so we need to really keep the HP up. But you can see how quickly Ash got hit. She got hit for 900 damage in the space of about 5 seconds. And then in about 7 seconds, she took 1,300. So she's not going to stay alive for very long. But there is the big problem. This guy uses the move Renew. And that is hugely problematic because we're already basically dead. If we only had the remaining HP to take out, maybe we'd be able to just, like, you know, limp over the line. But with Renew, there's absolutely no chance. It's still got its regen. It's hitting for like 300, 250. And it's just got, like, you know, 20,000 HP restored. And so that was really OP and something that we couldn't handle. And so, yeah, obviously my first attempt did not go too well. Now, my immediate thought was, is there a way to potentially silence this guy? Because in my head, I'm like, well, Renew is surely a spell that you cast. If we can have silence on this guy, can we stop it from casting Renew? And if we can, then maybe we can get over the line. So let me show you guys what basically was, I think, the final attempt. I think I had 3 or 4. I didn't push it too hard here. So Varn is now in there with the Mage Masher because we're trying to get silence as quickly as possible here. So we can't stop Angel Song, but fine. There you go. There's the silence. It's hit. So in my head, I was like, okay, if we've got silence on there, that means surely we have a chance now. So back to the Chopper. We can't afflict Sap, but Chopper's obviously still the most damaging attacking option that we have. So we'll fast forward to later on in the fight where it looks like we're doing really well. And Silence is, of course, still there. And now, surely, I'm like, look how many characters I still have left alive. I can get this done. I had some pretty good RNG up until this point, and survived pretty well. Vaughn blocks the aqua bubbles there. Look at this Renew coming in now. Did you see how low the HP was before Renew happened? So that's bullshit. I'm sorry. An enemy that is silenced should not be able to use Renew. I don't care if it's a technique or whatever it's called. Like, it's magical stuff. To Renew like that, that's a casting spell. You're silenced, it shouldn't happen. And we were literally like 2 or 3 hits away. But it got the Renew in at the absolute final possible moment. And obviously with that, we lost our chance once again. So once I saw that Renew happens, even if you have Silence, I kind of lost my motivation here. And I thought I'm not going to keep trying this fight over and over until I kind of just get some good RNG and limp over the line and take it out before Renew happens, basically. So I think in total I had maybe 3 or 4 tries. And this was like by far and away the best one I had. I think in 2 or 3 of my other tries, it didn't even get to cast Renew. It killed me before that happened. So I think this was a particularly good attempt, and we still couldn't do it. So I thought, let's just not waste too much time here. This isn't an essential hunt. We can just carry on. And so for now, at least, I left Crocodile undefeated, and I returned to Rabanasta. So once I was back, I decided to try and get a few little upgrades. I had defeated some random encounters and had a little bit more in terms of guild because I'd sold loot. And so with that, I made a few little upgrades. Again, I'll show it in the background. Just trying to get a few more armor upgrades as well. Like seeing the Crocodile do like 300, 400 damage. Even though my HP was generally starting to look better for some of my characters. Obviously, if you're taking like 400 a pop and enemies start to get into that sort of berserk mode where they're attacking every 2 seconds, you're not going to last very long. So I did need like a few little upgrades in terms of my armors to give me a better chance of survival. So I spent a little bit of time on that. And then I wanted to take on one more hunt before continuing things in terms of the story. So we are heading back towards the Sandsea area to try and defeat the Wyvern Lord. So while you guys watch my first attempt against the Wyvern Lord, I will give you a little bit of information about it. The Wyvern Lord is a level 18, which is 6 levels lower than the Crocodile, so immediately I thought that's probably a better chance of victory, but it does have 18,669 HP. Now, in terms of elemental stuff, it is much more wind heavy. It likes to use moves like Arrow. So if I did have some wind protection, like for example, something like the Manufactured Nethicite, it's probably a good idea to equip something like that just to reduce the chance of damage a little bit as well. On top of that, it is immune to sap, but it is not immune to slow. So if you have a way of afflicting slow, probably a good idea against this guy. Also not immune to sleep. If you can put it to sleep, that would be pretty huge. At this point, I didn't have anything to be able to do that. But as you've seen so far, I've been doing my best to just keep kind of plodding on with the game and not taking any big timeouts to do any kind of big grinding. So I didn't have anything to put sleep on. But in this first attempt, you're seeing that the main frustration for me was that while I'm trying to fight the Wyvern Lord, I kept having to deal with these random encounters that kept spawning over and over and over again. And obviously it was distracting me, they were chipping away damage. And ultimately, on my first attempt, it got a little bit out of control, and I couldn't survive long enough to win the fight. So we're going to skip to the second attempt. And in this one, I made a bit more of an effort to kind of systematically clear out the random encounters, so that it was mostly going to be just us versus the Wyvern Lord. As you can see, I picked up a heavy coat, which was kind of nice, and that meant that I got a little bit of an armor upgrade as well. Any armor upgrade that I don't have to spend money for is a huge benefit for me. So definitely a nice pickup there ahead of the fight. Now another good thing here is that obviously Barsh is a monk and he uses the poles that can attack flyers as well. So it's another one of those fights where Barsh can be incredibly useful for us. He's basically our heaviest hitter anyway, and he's able to use poles, which means he can hit flyers too. So he was kind of going to lead the attack here. And you can see the random encounters already respawned here, so really annoying. But I was trying to basically get rid of these as much as possible because they always get drawn into the fight. And they have things like they can cast Protect on themselves, and it just gets annoying. Now, since Ash and Vaughn can't hit the Wyvern Lord anyway, I'm using these guys here just to help clear out the Begoli Brigade. And well, she did get a level up, which was a nice touch here. So everybody hits level 15 right before the fight begins. And just so I can observe the fight, I'm just going to stick with Balthier here. The camera can get a little bit annoying for these fights when you're fighting like bigger enemies. And obviously I try to do my best to kind of keep the fight, like keep the enemy in the frame. But depending on where you move and what's going on, it just gets really annoying. And you can see the Bergoli has appeared again, but thankfully it's only one and it's quite far away. So hopefully we'll kind of stay away from it and just do enough damage before it gets involved. But yeah, we're on the edge of the map now, so the camera's kind of spazzing out a little bit. Yeah. No, well, you guys are welcome. What can I say? So still a decent amount of HP here. It's taking a little while to deplete. So the Bergoli finally got involved there. But I'm going to ignore it for now. The plan is to just keep the focus on the Wyvern Lord. And you can see Barsh is doing a really nice job. I mean, he's basically taken most of the hits here. And still has half of his HP. So this is looking much more promising here. Still ignoring the Bergoli. You see another one spawned in and another one. So this fight is just, I think that's one of the only things that makes it annoying. Balthier got distracted, so you need to set up your gambits to keep the focus on the Wyvern Lord. This was again a mistake in terms of my gambits. And we got hit with sap, so things again got a little bit out of control near the end, as they often do. Sheesh. So now the problem is we don't have a lot of attackers that can actually hit the Wyvern Lord. So we need Fran or Penelo to finish this off, otherwise it could be trouble. So Fran's going to die. Yep, she's dead. And so now Penelo's actually the only one that can win this fight for us. So I take control of her, and I make sure she's aiming at the Wyvern Lord and doesn't die here. So again, things got chaotic at the end. And it's always just those pesky Bergolis, even though I cleared out all of them first. 3 of them already respawned by the time I got to this stage of the fight. One more hit, maybe? No. That final bit of health always takes forever. But there it is. So for once, it was actually Penelo that got the job done, and not Balthier. But there you go. Wyvern Lord vanquished. In general, like, the fight itself is not too bad. But as I say, you just have to deal with a lot of these Bergolis that just keep popping up. And they have 1,000 HP, and they can put Protect on, so it can be difficult. Depending on what they're doing, they can waste a lot of your time. Taking like 10-15 seconds out to clear these guys might make the difference between winning and losing as well. So that was the only frustration really, but once you actually focus your attention on them, even if it takes a little bit of time, you can still defeat them. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do this quest was because you get the Elfin Bow as a result, which is an upgrade for Fran, which we don't have to pay for because bows are pretty expensive. And 2, we actually get the Shell Shield. Now, when I was doing my kind of planning before starting, one of the main things I'm looking for is how can we get buffs on these guys without casting any spells, because it's attack only. And one of the ways in which you can do that, of course, is to try to equip things that will give you like an auto status. And the Shell Shield, as its name would suggest, gives you an auto shell. Now, that could at some point become relevant, and there's only, I think, 1 or 2 characters that can use it. I know for a fact that Ash can, but I'd have to double check if Penelo can, because she can use heavy armor too. I believe those 2. I think anyone that can use heavy armor can also use a Shell Shield. And so picking one up this early in the game was nice. I mean, I'm nowhere near it in terms of the license board, but at least having it in my inventory and being able to use it in the future potentially was also going to be nice. So that was another reason why it was definitely worth taking on the Wyvern Lord hunt. I mean, those are 2 pretty nice rewards. The Shell Shield in and of itself is a big deal, I think. And 2, of course, getting a bow upgrade was also nice. And so with that, it is finally time for me to progress the story. This little kind of hunt episode is over, and we are going to head to the Osmone Plain to resume the adventure. Alright, here we go. Let's see how we get along in the first area that's been like an upgrade in terms of its random encounters for quite some time. As always, I'll kind of give you guys a feel for how the area looks. We'll see some random encounters, we'll start to explore it a little bit, and then we'll move things along once it starts to get established what kind of stuff we're dealing with. So the plan is to get to Jahara, which is not too far away. The Osmone Plains are relatively big, but if you just kind of make a straight run for Jahara, it's not that big. The first thing we'll take on here is the zoo, and we'll see how this one works. I mean, it looks pretty intimidating. But thankfully, it seems like we're doing quite a lot of damage here. And so as a result, if even something like the zoo is relatively easy to take out, I think that's a good early sign. I had been taking chip damage along the way, so Fran's not doing great, but I did have the guild to kind of restore my potion sets, and so we'll be okay. Right, the next set, these guys look a little bit intimidating as well. Let's take a look. They do have 3,179 HP and they're level 24, so I'm level 16 at the moment. We're 8 levels below the random encounters. Let's see how this plays out. Yeah, that's not a lot of damage. Like, that's... this is going to be a little bit of work to take these guys out. And if they're doing 100 per hit, like, that's pretty heavy still. So I don't want to take on, like, too many of these guys at once, because they could definitely kill us. But they should offer some pretty good experience. But since we got started, I might as well try and see it through here. So this is one where I think, like, generally HP management is a little bit more important. Like, we can definitely survive and make progress here, especially if we ignore a lot of the encounters. But obviously, as I've been saying, I'm trying my best to not just completely run through everything. Especially when I'm in a new area, because we just need to keep getting stronger as we go. But those hunts and the loot that I've been picking up along the way is definitely given me enough gil to kind of restore my potions. And while Fran does have some potion laws as well, so it does make it a little bit easier to heal. Now, these guys do pop up quite frequently. The Vipers, 1,430. Thankfully, that's far lower than the Zagnals that we faced a little while back. But they can be a little bit tricky to hit sometimes. Yeah, you saw like it got a couple of dodges in there. And well, with those guys, you kind of just never know when they're going to pop up. So if you're not careful, if you're running around with like very low HP and one just pops up in front of you and targets you, could be in trouble. Okay, next up, I want to take on these guys. They are level 21. So thankfully, the Zagnal seems to be like a bit of a outlier in terms of its health and its level. It is definitely more powerful than most of the other stuff here. I really like the design of these guys. They look so cool. But thankfully, they're not too difficult. So especially the stuff that's in the level 21 range, like the Vipers and those guys, I think they're much more doable. But if we had like a whole bunch of Zagnals that we had to defeat like along the way, then I think we'd get taken out pretty fast, and we'd have to use up a lot of resources to be able to get that done. Now, in general, if anyone's wondering what did you do about Belias that you got in the last episode, basically the answer is nothing. I did have a look at everyone's license boards to see if Belias kind of unlocks anything useful for anybody, and the answer was no. So I'm not going to dwell too much on it, but Belias basically ended up not being used. But in the future, as I hopefully get more Espers, some of them might block the path and then unlock the path to useful parts of the license board. But you can see Balthea here really growing in terms of HP here. Some really nice boosts available. And so I definitely was cashing in on these as much as I can. I mean, already without having crazy HP, he was already surviving to the end because of the fact that he's a machinist. And he can keep a distance in the fight. So having a guy that can keep distance and have a lot of HP, that's a surefire way to have much more endurance in these more difficult boss fights. One thing I was lacking quite a lot at this stage was elemental stuff. Hopefully that's something that will improve over time. But for now, at least, there weren't too many weapons that I had that had good elemental options. So I just had to stick with kind of brute force a lot of the time, and well, sometimes status effects as well, if I could get them. So a couple of minutes later, I take out this Viper, and then this happens. We get a pouch of Silent Shot, which is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. Look at this. Beautiful. So now I have someone other than Varn who can afflict silence. So Varn can focus on sap or use the chopper, which generally does more damage anyway. And so Balthea can now afflict silence from a distance. So this was a huge find. And exactly the kind of reason why I wanted something like a machinist, because obviously their different types of shots can be incredibly useful moving forward. So that was a huge find on the Osmone Plains. And so I think that's the final thing I'll show from the Osmone Plains. You've seen in general the encounters are okay. And I think the Silent Shot was far and away the most important thing that I found while exploring. So let's move it on to Jahara and keep things rolling. Now, I think the main thing worth talking about in Jahara is that I noticed that the shop sells the Iron Pole, which again is huge because it has slow affliction. So over time, I really am starting to expand out my ability to inflict statuses in this attack only. We've got two characters who have silence affliction, we have sap, and now we have slow also with the Iron Pole. And so I made sure I definitely was able to get myself one of those. It's just too important to not have. And then also, as part of the storyline, you can get yourself a recurve crossbow, or Penelo, which is an even more powerful one, and she actually ends up being able to do a pretty nice amount of damage as a result. So those are generally like the main things. Beyond that, this was also a place where the ice shield was available. Now, I did definitely double check this. I was pretty sure it was the case, but it's always worth checking. You can't stack different types of like elemental protection like that. So for example, if you have the ice shield and then you have a tourmaline ring, both of them do half ice damage. You can't stack them together to get ice immunity, unfortunately. But if I need something else as my accessory, it would be very nice for Varn or Ash to be able to have an ice shield. So I definitely wanted to make sure I could get the ice shield as well while I was here. So definitely some shopping here. Ice shield, iron pole. I wanted to get some more Nishjin belts so that I could protect myself from sleep. And at this point, I didn't exactly have much protection. Even though on the license board, most of the characters hadn't reached accessories 10, I think it was, for Nishjin belt. Obviously, still need to have it. And if we do face a boss or a hunt where sleep is absolutely paramount, where we really need to protect it, then we'll kind of invest a little bit extra to make sure we have that sleep protection available as well. So Jahara was a lot of shopping and a lot of kind of inventory acquisition. Now, there was a hunt that you could pick up here, and so this was a hunt that I definitely wanted to try and take on as well. Since I was generally still wanting to spend a little bit more time on the Osmone plane, I hadn't fought like that many encounters. I wanted to get a little bit stronger and also potentially get a reward for this hunt as well. So I'm going to move along to this Enkelados hunt, because this one was one that definitely took some time. So generally showing you guys a little bit of inventory here, you can see that things have definitely started to improve. We're starting to get a few more things like the green beret in the mix, that kind of thing. And so definitely have a chance to survive much longer in more difficult battles as well. So definitely looking better here. Now, another great long-range status thing that I managed to find were the long bolts. Long bolts are also huge because now I have another character who can afflict slow. So now we have Balthea who can afflict silence from long range, and we have Penelo who can afflict slow from long range. So if you have both Barsh and Penelo attacking an enemy, the chances of them being hit with slow, it's going to happen very quickly basically. And so that was a nice little boost to our setup as well. Now I'm going to fast forward to my first attempt against the Enkelados. Now this guy is really frustrating for this type of challenge. So in terms of the stats, he's a level 22 and has 18,709 HP, which again, you think that's not too bad. I mean, relative to what we've been facing, it could be a lot worse. Also, susceptible to slow, susceptible to sap, and susceptible to silence. And so on paper, this should be a breeze. And the final bonus, of course, is that by this point of the story, Larsa has joined us as well. And so this is a great time to do any hunts if you need to, because of course Larsa will give you a little bit more extra damage. And sometimes, depending on the situation, he can give you a lot of extra damage. Like, his HP is low relative to the rest of the party, but sometimes when he gets going, he can do a ton of damage. So let's see how our first attempt against Enkelados went with Larsa as well. So here we go. He does have Protect, of course he does, because he's annoying shit. Silence gets afflicted immediately by Silence Shot, so that's really nice. Definitely wanted to see that. Let's see if the slow gets afflicted as well. So trying to draw its attention with Balthea and run away, but you saw 362 damage there. That's quite a lot. And it does a spinning kick which hits everybody, which obviously we don't really want to see. Now, at this point, you're seeing Varn is dead. Basically, even to get to here, there was a lot of things I had to beat, and so some of my characters were already dead. But I was trusting in the fact that I could take this guy down because I had things like slow and silence available. and, well, Larsa too. So 4 characters at once, all just pummeling this guy. It's looking pretty good, right? Like, up until this point, again, we've killed it. But this guy, much like Crocodile, has a restoration move. And it brings back a lot of HP. Now, to make things worse, this is where it really gets killer. You saw Purify there. Purify got rid of the negative statuses that we put on it, and it now has Protect again. And, to make things even more annoying, Enkelados is immune to harmful status effects. Some really broken bullshit there. Like, literally, not only does it purify itself, it says, okay, you're not allowed to debuff me at all anymore. That's it. And so from here, you're kind of stuck, because all you can do is just damage it. You can't slow it down. You can't put sap on it. You can't do anything. So I still trusted that there might be a chance I can still break through here. But obviously, because it has Protect as well, it just makes matters even worse. But you can see he's still doing well here. But now those spinning kicks come in and people are starting to die again. And, well, you all know what happens when you get down to that final bit of HP. So spin kick again, Lars is dead. Don't have too much left here, but there's still 3 characters alive. Might have a chance. And, well, even Balthier is almost dead. If Balthier is almost dead, you know shit's serious. So the Protect is gone, and we landed a critical, and we're starting to do more damage now, but it did a restore. Of course it did. So, yeah, Sinus ran out as well. I don't know if... I'm pretty sure it still does restore even with Sinus anyway, because one of those dumb kind of bypassy moves, which I don't like. But you can see, again, it's a little bit bullshitty, a little bit like Enkelados. It just has a few moves in the mix there that just make it incredibly difficult to deal with. And so, unfortunately, this attempt did not end well. And so what I did with this one was definitely give it some more attempts, because this one frustrated me with its like bullshit moves. I wanted to kind of still beat it anyway. So I was getting a little bit stubborn with this one. And so we spent a little bit of time on this guy. So let's rejoin on another attempt here. The HP is already pretty low now. And we still have Varn, Balthier, and Ash in the mix. So maybe there's a chance. But of course, because of that Purify move, you can see I'm not able to really reapply any statuses here. Like, Sap hasn't been put back on. Sinus hasn't been put back on. And it's just attacking so frequently. It's just spamming so much in this like late phase. And that restore always just comes in right when you're getting close to winning. It restores. And every restore is probably like 5,000 HP or something like that. And so it really sets you back. And you can see like Sinus just not being re-afflicted here. So it was another one of those fights that just kept frustrating me. Like, you get down to the last like 10-15%, and then something happens and it restores itself and it becomes immune to negative statuses and all that kind of stuff. And it just frustrates you. It kind of wears you down and finishes you off. So this much HP left. Balthier is on his own. I don't think there's going to be anything particularly heroic happening this time around. I mean, those hits are big. Even though I've got a few little armor upgrades, it's still like taking over 300 a pop is not great. So even the mighty Balthier is doing his best here. 41 HP. And there you go, he's dead. So now eventually, after I'd say another 5-6 attempts, something like that, we had a run like this one. Now you're noticing that Balthier went up in HP. I did manage to get just a couple more LP points while prepping for this one. And so I do have a little more. I can survive at least another attack or two. And so here we go once again. Trying to get those statuses on there. I really need that sap to hit. I hadn't been able to get sap to hit properly. But slow has hit, which is nice. There we go, nice little chain. And so now, like, damage-wise, we're really off to a great start here. And it has been slowed, which is big. So I think, like, the main thing this time around was being able to get off to a very, very quick start. And slow obviously means that restore will also take longer to happen. So at this stage, I think we did okay. Like, restore still came in quickly. I don't know if it's a HP trigger. It might be the fact that if it goes below a certain amount of HP, it will do it, so it's not like slow won't affect it, unfortunately. So there come its 2 bullshit moves. But I think, yeah, you see like it repeated Purify there. So it really just doesn't want you to put any negative stasis on it after like the first half of the fight. But I guess it wasted a little bit of time trying to Purify again. We still got off to a great start. I think despite everything that it's been doing, we've still been kind of powering through and doing a lot of damage here. And having these long-range guys will also protect us for a little while longer. Let's see if Barsh can hang in here. 130 damage taken. That's definitely much better. 236, a little worse. 222. So he'll survive a few more turns, but you can see the frequency going up there. He took 3 attacks in absolutely no time. But we still have a couple more options here. We have a chance. Just have to hope that that restore doesn't come in. There it was again, of course, just as I said it. It's really disheartening to like get that close every time and then to see that stupid restore coming in. And it still has protect. And well, we can't afflict slow anymore. So we're just going to have to see if we can survive. Now, Penello's in like kind of last stand territory. You can see she's got that glowing effect, but because she's got such little HP, she can't survive another attack when she's that low. Here we go again. The protect is gone, so now we have a chance to do some more damage again. Critical. Ash has fallen. It's just Balthea and Fran now. As it often is. But Balthea does have that 1,900 HP here. So he can definitely survive a few more hits, but there's still a decent amount of damage to do. But they're getting closer here, and Balthea has done a very good job to withstand this onslaught. Nearly there. No restore still. I don't know if there's a finite amount of restores it can do as well. Maybe that's part of the mechanic. But it switched its attention to Fran at the exact perfect moment. So it brought us a tiny bit more time to land a couple more hits here. So Fran's dead. Balthea on 20 HP. We've been here before. And of course, Balthea lands the winning hit as the last character standing with 20 HP left. So Enkelados was a really annoying hunt, but with enough attempts, we got the job done. So the restore mechanics were obviously one of the biggest reasons that it was a problem, and not being able to reapply those statuses, and the fact that it can reapply protect on itself, all of those things obviously made it a troublesome fight. But of course, the leading man prevails once again, and we are able to get the job done. So Enkelados is another one we can put in the books. And so with that, we are able to move things along. I'm going to head towards Golmore Jungle and Urit Village at this point. Always like the design of this place. Let's see how we fare with the enemies in here. At this point, we've got a little bit more of a boost. We are up to level 17 for some of our characters. Like nothing too crazy once again. In the last like 3 hours, we've gone up like 2 levels. So it's not exactly been crazy. But we have made decent LP progress. Even though the experience points are low, the LP points have been pretty good. And I have been making use of Golden Amulet as well to make sure I get some extra points. So let's have a look. We face the Panthers in here first. Now they do have some potentially troublesome moves, but if we can kill them quickly enough, then it shouldn't be a problem. And you can see that's pretty fast, especially since we have Larsa here once again. We can get the job done much more quickly as a result. Now there are quite a few of them here, so could get dangerous, but again you can see we're getting through them pretty fast. And since there's a save crystal so close by, I thought even if we get killed here it's not a big deal, or we lose a lot of HP. Basically you're only spending a short amount of time in Golmore. Your main thing is just going to be to traverse a small section of it to get to Urit Village, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. So I showed you guys those. Aside from the Panthers in Golmore Jungle, we do have Gargoyles to face. Yeah, they have decent HP, and depending on what they're casting, could be a little bit problematic, especially if you have like 4 of them or something on you at once. It can get a little bit annoying. But once again, in this particular stretch, this is like a nice little farming / leveling spot if you need it, because you have the save outside Golmore Jungle, and you have the save in Uruk Village. So you can afford to kind of just be aggressive here, and just take things out as quickly as you can, and not worry too much about the HP loss along the way, because you can always restore it for free. So Silence got afflicted there, nice to see. So in general, once again, no problem here when it comes to the Golmore Jungle enemies that we faced so far. And so with that, we make it to Uruk Village, and here once again we get to a shop which has a lot of nice things for us to get. I will kind of move it along quickly here just to save you guys some time so we can get to some more of the good stuff, and I can show you guys a boss fight. So this was a section in which I wanted Balthea's upgraded gun, the Beetlejuice, which is obviously going to do a lot more damage, which is just what we need for our machinist. Also, flame shields become available, so I explained the ice shield, obviously I want to get the flame shield. But we also get a piece of armor for our heavy armor users, which can give them auto protect. I was pretty stunned. I didn't realize that you get this basically soon in the game. But even though protect isn't quite as powerful as it is in some of the other Final Fantasies, anytime you can have auto protect is obviously going to be a big deal. So shielded armor gives you auto protect as well. So there was a lot to buy here, and it was definitely a lot more money than I personally had at this point. So I was generally chatting with my boy Wordsmith, and I was saying, hey, like, what can I do to make a little bit of quick, easy gil without going on some wild grind or doing anything too crazy? And he had an idea. He said, in Osmone Plain, there is a section of it which can take you into the Zertinan Caverns. Now, we're not actually going to explore the caverns at all, but that particular like small section of the map, there is a chest there that has a chance of spawning a chopper weapon. And the interesting thing about this chest is that it's one that is repeatable. And so all you need to do is head down to it, and then go into the Zertinan Caverns and come back, and just keep kind of loading and deloading the area, and that chest will continue to spawn. And you can basically indefinitely farm choppers by doing this, and you don't need to fight any encounters. You won't be increasing your like LP points or experience or anything like that. It's just basically an infinite guild trick. Now, it's slow progress. It's not gonna like make you hundreds of thousands within like 20 minutes or something. So it's not designed, I think, for like power leveling in terms of guild. But if you just need like a quick like 10k, 15k just to get a few little things, and you don't want to deal with like fighting random encounters for it, it could be a nice little method for making some quick, safe gil at this stage. So I made use of that, and then I headed back to Uruk Village to buy those things I listed before. So in general, that's how I'm gonna talk about that section, because it's just going to take too long. We definitely upgraded our inventory in quite a big way here before moving on to the Henne Mines. So that's where we're going to go next as we get towards the end of another episode. Okay, my friends, it's time for the Henne Mines. Henne Mines. This time, I do have Larsa with me, the same as when we went into the Lusu mines. The poor kid spends like half of his like runtime in mines. But yeah, we have a pretty strong squad at this point, and we have 4 characters. So in general, again, I was hoping that we should be able to make it through. My only issue being, again, how close are save crystals, and how many of my resources am I going to use along the way? Because obviously, even though the things you fight in here are things we're generally familiar with, they are going to be higher level, and so their ability to chip away at your health is of course going to be higher. So again, much as it has been for most of the mine encounters, any one encounter is not dangerous. It's kind of like death by 1,000 needles kind of situation here. So just have to kind of keep track of the inventory and not get yourself kind of too overwhelmed with enemies as you're moving along. I think in terms of the most dangerous aspect of the mines, I think it has to be those kind of crossroad bits where you activate the panel, and then you have those flans, the jellies that kind of suddenly spawn in the room. Now, these jellies are actually quite a problem, and because you're in a small area and there's a lot of them, and they're generally quite resistant and can do like these sort of spinning attacks that do a lot of damage, that's basically something I wanted to make sure that I avoided while I was in the Henne Mines. So I didn't want to basically get into it with those guys, because they can definitely do a lot of damage very quickly, and there is also an added element that makes them particularly problematic. So I'm going to show you guys that now. The first time I had them spawn, I deliberately, immediately kind of ran forward. But this time I'm going to show you what happens if you go back in and you actually deliberately fight them. So here we go. There's 3 jellies here. I mean, it's 4 on 3. We should be fine, right? Now, they have a move called Phantasmal Gaze, which could be annoying. You've seen Fran just got confused there. So Confuse is a status that you have to deal with when you're fighting these guys. I definitely don't have a Bowline Sash to protect against Confuse at this point. And so the fact that these guys can keep spawning in, they can outnumber you, they have those spinning attacks, they hit fairly hard, their defenses are quite good, and they can confuse you. It's a pretty nasty combination for this particular team. Especially if you're far away from somewhere to heal, because every time you fight these guys, you are most definitely going to need to heal afterwards. And so, depending on like what type of run you're doing, these guys can be a great tool for farming. You can build chains, you can do a lot of great things against the jellies. But for now, at least for me, I kind of just wanted to fight the group one time, just to see what happens. But it felt to me like it was very dangerous because of the Confuse, and I didn't want to take on too many of them during my time in the Henne Mines. So I'm showing you guys here how it kind of worked out, but it felt to me like it wasn't the best idea to fight too many of these along the way. So I think that was the main thing as I was making my way through. Now, as we start to head deeper in, we start to face these nightmare enemies. This is another one of those enemies that can kind of phase in and out, which is a little bit annoying. But I'd had, at this point, started to develop my kind of just stay aggressive type of strategy against them. Now, also, you saw me equip the bangle there, and you can see immediately that there's a trap in a really awkward place. Now, these nightmares, in terms of their HP, they're not particularly hard, and they do have darkness-related attacks, so an Argyle armlet would go a long way to reducing the damage. But you can see at this stage it has become a little bit of an endurance run. I am keeping their HP fairly low because to keep restoring them back up to full every time, I just don't have the resources for it. So I'm having to kind of rely on generally just having high enough HP. Because you can see Balthier is up to 2,222 at this point, which is huge. And so even though he's a quarter of his HP, he still has a good 500 here. But I'm playing a little bit dangerously here. But there's just a lot of encounters, and there's not very many places to heal in terms of save crystals. So I think that was the biggest challenge once again of the mines. And I didn't equip the Argyle armlet, which I probably should have here. I definitely start doing it later on, but in the earlier encounters I definitely wasn't doing it properly. And you can see, like, basically after every encounter I need to toss like 4 potions or something like that to be able to make sure I'm kind of back up to speed every time. And so you're going to burn through potions pretty quickly if you're going to play it that way. Now, one really nice thing is that I was reading up, and I did know that you could get another suit of shielded armor. So you can see here in the menu that Ash already has one, but Penelo didn't. I didn't spend gil to get her one of these because I knew you could get one in the Henne Mines. And so now, both of my heavy armor users actually have auto protect at this stage of the game, which is absolutely huge. So that was a really nice win for the team. And it just basically increased our longevity, like especially when you're in a place like this. If you can reduce the chip damage that you're taking, I think it's 25% in this game that protect reduces physical damage by. We'll just take everything we can get. So it was definitely nice to have that for both of them as well. Okay, so getting even deeper in here, I noticed this giant T-Rex guy having a fight, and this gave me kind of Final Fantasy VIII T-Rexor flashbacks, where I was like, if you see a giant T-Rex, you probably shouldn't be fighting it. But yeah, I didn't know if there was a way to kind of still kill it anyway, and I was kind of both curious and afraid at the same time. There are auto saves again, so I thought to myself, maybe it's worth just taking it on. Maybe it has some good loot or something like that if we can win, or it gives you a lot of LP points. I genuinely forgot how strong it was. Like, is this a rare game? Has it got like 50,000 HP? And I didn't have Libra at the time, so I didn't know. But I thought let's just see what happens here. So we need to get rid of these guys first, which we did. Thankfully the T-Rex didn't trigger there. But I'm definitely kind of healing up a little bit here. It's a bit silly to go straight in with like 500 HP each. Yeah, so there you go. I realized that it is a level 27, and it does have 4,000, but it's not like some kind of crazy like rare game, like can wipe out your whole party kind of level. That's how it seemed anyway. So it came in with 315, which, yeah, it's decent damage, but I mean, even the little bats can hit you for like 170, so compared to that, it wasn't too bad. And we managed to kill it pretty fast. And it only gives you 2 LP, so you can see like the level of enemy that it is. So it's nothing like the T-Rex saw in Final Fantasy VIII, fortunately, I guess. So yeah, that was like a minor scare when I first saw it. I was like, shit, like this guy could wipe me out, but turns out it wasn't too big of a problem. And I think in terms of the Henne Mines, I think that's probably the final thing that I'll show, because there is a boss battle to be had. So eventually I did reach the save crystal, and next up, and the major boss for this episode, is going to be Tiamat. So let's have a look at this guy. Tiamat is level 25, but he has 50,000 HP, which is nuts. He is weak to Earth, but Earth, we don't have any meaningful weapon that does Earth damage. Like, I think one of the first poles that Barsh can get has an Earth effect, but its attack power is pretty low anyway. In terms of statuses, it is immune to a lot of stuff, but one thing it is not immune to is slow. So at the very least, because we now have both Penelo and Barsh who can afflict slow, that's something that we can definitely do nice and early on. So let's get into it and see how my attempt against Tiamat went. In terms of the setup, everyone has made it to at least level 20. I wanted to kind of get everyone at a nice round number before starting this. In terms of what moves it can do, it can use Arrow, which again is something that we can protect against at least partially with one character. It also has the Disabler move, and it says it uses during the battle when some opponents are far. There's a 5% chance, apparently. That's what it says. So there's a couple of moves here that could be really detrimental, and so we're going to see how it actually plays out, and do we actually have to deal with Disabler or not. I decided to mostly, again, I think for Barsh, I gave him the manufactured Nethicite to protect against the wind damage. And other than that, it was mostly, I think, a bit more of an attacking style, where I tried to do as much damage as possible. So things like Battle Harness, just to get a few extra counter hits, and that kind of thing. So opening party does have Penelo in there, because I want to get slow on there as quickly as possible. And with that, we will head in to Tiamat and see how this went. I do love the worm designs in this game. They always look so cool. And well, because I was always such a big fan of Sanctuary Keeper from 10, that kind of worm design just always looks dope. It always reminded me of Sanctuary Keeper. So, here we go. We have 2 characters that can get slow on there, and Penelo does have her auto protect, which is also going to be nice. You're seeing Beetlejuice doing 600 damage every time here, which is really nice. So even my Machinist is getting nice output here. Slow has been afflicted, good to see. And so now I move Penelo out of there, and I bring in another melee fighter. Basically, I'd already read at this point that it does use Disabler more frequently if enemies are too far away. And so I wanted to roughly kind of keep everyone fairly close. So even Balthea here, as the Machinist, is keeping close. There comes Arrow. This is going to hit everybody, but at least Barsh will take less damage from it. But you can see the work that we've been doing in terms of upgrading our equipment and stuff has definitely been paying off. Like, we're doing very quick damage now. And it's kind of funny, but Balthea is doing the most damage out of anyone. He has the most HP, and he's doing the most damage, which is pretty insane. So now we're switching things up a little bit. Protecting against ice, poison, and sap. And you can see, even though it's got 50,000, we're really rattling through it pretty quickly. Especially, obviously, with Larsa in the mix as well, throwing in lots of extra damage. It's looking pretty good here. Some blocks coming in. There's another arrow. And you're seeing me kind of, like, hot swap in terms of, like, the equipment a lot more than I used to. So it's something that I started to get used to doing a lot more. The more boss battles that I had. So arrows coming. Takes such a long time to load up. So yeah, I mean, it does damage, but it's nothing like really detrimental here. So I was kind of surprised. The slow was doing a lot of good work. Like, it was just taking a long time for Tiamat to do much of anything, really. And so this was looking pretty good at this point. But we're starting to get to that dangerous phase here, and it's readying the breath move. Let's see what's going to happen here. Varn is the only one that got hit there, thankfully, because I've spaced out here. Varn was the only one facing it, and everybody else managed to avoid it. And so in comes Ashe, who also has auto protect and 1400 HP. Again, bit of camera struggles here. The enemy's just huge. But you can see the damage is flying in here, like just from all sides. Huge damage. So breath only hit... Wait, no, it did hit Ashe as well. And it did afflict Sap. So that's why I had the Tourmaline Ring at one point as well. But Sap, as you can see, if you look at Barsh's health, it is going down pretty slowly. Like it's not that horrible. And there comes Disableger. Let's see who this hits. Did it hit anybody? Doesn't seem like it. Balthier did get KO'd there, annoyingly, but Disableger wasn't like the kind of showstopper that it could have potentially been. And so we're just getting right back in here. Barsh has had Sap for some time, and still he's doing okay. He's being targeted here though, so he won't last much longer. Still hanging in there, he's done a nice job. And we're already almost finished here. But Barsh is finished. So in comes Fran. I think we should still be okay here. We've still got 4 attackers. Another Disableger comes in. And this time, still, nothing happens. So it seems like the affliction rate isn't super high. Ashe manages to live to fight another day. And we are very close now. So the sheer amount of damage output that we've generally had has been really nice. His last stand mechanics, of course, resulting in us doing very little damage near the end, but still was not enough to defeat us, and we managed to see it through. So Sap basically hitting only the characters in front of it was helpful for us, because a lot of the time we did avoid it. And even when Barsh got hit with it, like it cost him maybe 100, 200 HP across the fight. Wasn't that big a deal. Afflicting slow was huge, because obviously like when it tried to cast some like arrow, it felt like it took forever. And by the time it even cast 1 arrow, we did like 5,000 damage. And so, in general, Tiamat was a little bit easier than I thought. But we had been preparing quite a lot up until this point. And of course, we are fighting with 4 characters, which always makes life easier as well. So I think I will end this episode here. There was a lot of hunts, but we did do a lot in terms of getting stronger here. And in the next episode, we are going to move things along with the story at a more rapid pace. But I definitely wanted to show what we got up to, because this actually covered like, including even like speed ups and stuff, I think it was a good 4 or 5 hours of gameplay here that was covered. And so in the next sesh, we will be moving the story along towards Mount Ber Omises, and just as a little kind of teaser, just something to whet your appetites a little bit, I will be fighting Elder Worm, because I know that's one that a lot of people will be curious about. It is an optional fight, but I definitely didn't skip it, and I wanted to see if I could defeat Elder Worm, and you can find out what happened in the next episode. So hopefully you guys are continuing to enjoy the series. As always, if you are and you want to continue supporting content like this, I would really appreciate any kind of support you can provide on Patreon, with one of the best perks available on there, the fact that you can get early access to these episodes. And depending on which tier you're in, you can also access our exclusive Dazzle8 Brain Trust Discord, where we talk a lot of shit and have a lot of fun. So I will see you guys for the next episode, where there will be definitely a lot of interesting things happening, including Elder Worm. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.